Okay, so here we are with the highlighted bits. I've gone back and repowdered. I'd like to powder with every step, particularly with some airbrush formulas can be a little sticky if you don't set them, and then when you go back to go use a brush over top of them again, you'll get some blending mistakes and boo-boos. So I'm going to start off with a tapered blush brush. This one is by Laura Mercier, one of my favorites because it's really soft and will deliver a small amount of pigment. And to begin with, I want to use lighter pigment and build to the intensity. So I'm going to start by using a pale turquoise eyeshadow, the one right over here. It's actually called Melody by MAC, and it doesn't exist any longer, unfortunately. I don't use it very much because I like to save every little bit that I can. There are some turquoise shadows out there that you can use in place of it. And then I'll also use some Electric Eel, the strong turquoise, to deepen the contour, and a little bit of a color called Plumage, which is a really deep sort of peacock green blue color. And I'll use that, but in moderation and only small amounts, because it will show up really strong on this look. So for the contouring, I'm going to start under the cheekbone, and you'll notice I'm using kind of a stippling pressing motion. This is going to be a strong contoured look. It is, after all, a skeleton. And so I'm going to want to make sure that I have some very definitive, hard lines. You'll also see that with the shape, I'm going underneath the cheekbone and down, but I'm also coming down the front of the face here, so that I begin to get that carved out skeleton look to the cheek. And so you can begin to see that here, that I have the hard line that sort of blends away from where I want it to contour. And so what I'll do is actually take this up under here and round out that contouring so that you get the appearance of the bone. And again, this is an homage to a mask, so it doesn't have to necessarily look human or look how humans would normally be contoured. It is an extremely stylized look. So I'll contour under the jawline, but I'll even bring it upward here to make a sort of pronounced, almost cartoon-like jawline. So continuing on with the contouring, since it's such an essential part of this kind of look, I'm going to contour the temple right in here, just right against where I highlighted earlier, keeping in mind where the eye sockets are actually going to go. And so you can see that shape begin to take place, and you can see the highlight that rides above the brow bone right here. I may actually, even before I do the eye sockets, go back and emphasize that shape, as that shape is really key, that thin upper brow ridge. And then I'll even take the forehead contouring with the turquoise and go right here above where I did the white. And you can see that a really strong shape is beginning to emerge. It's very angular and very carved out. There'll be no contouring for the nose, again, because it will also be blacked out. And then we'll just finish the other side of the face, and then I'll come back when we start layering in the deeper color. So another important technique to remember, especially with a look that's this graphic and this intense, is to constantly look at yourself and step back in the mirror and make sure that everything from a distance is balanced. Quite frequently when you're working up close in your compact mirror, things will look as if they're in the proper proportion, and when you actually step back and take a look at yourself, whether it be in a large mirror or on camera, you can begin to identify some inconsistencies in the look. And even if you're looking at me here now, you can see a few light inconsistencies in the shape of the cheekbones and how they balance out. And so this is a great opportunity for me to go back and begin blending and adjusting those shapes in subtle ways to make sure that they're the same on both sides. No one's face is truly symmetrical, and we can still get as much symmetry as possible on the face with the right, taking the right perspective and taking the right moment to look at it from a distance. All right, now I'm shading the cheekbones with the Electric Eel color. What's important to know about using multiple colors to achieve depth is that they should grow smaller and smaller and smaller in concentration. So you wouldn't put the deeper color everywhere you put the beginning medium color. That would kind of defeat the purpose. And so the intensity and the saturation of the color should get hotter in small places. So you can see I'm just sort of tapping like right here in this hollow, and that's what provides that natural fade out of the look. I'll do the same thing with the temple, again, just a little bit, so that you know when I get to my third and deepest color, I'm going to be using such a small amount and in just concentrated and very specific places. Alright, and so with the third and final color, the deepest, I'm actually going to use it and touch it into the brush, but then actually even touch it back into the lighter colors that we use to really dilute it. With these really deep colors that are either black or navy blue based, you can get a lot of pigment payoff very quickly, which can be both a great thing and a little bit of a challenge. And so again, by really diluting it in the brush, I'm getting enough color payoff in very specific areas with very little effort. So again, with those deep colors, you don't want to go in there and go for the gusto. You want to just start with little bits of product and layer until you get to the desired intensity. I'm a big fan of saying it's always easy to add product, not so easy to take it away. Another component of the contouring will be to contour with the turquoise into the eye socket a little bit. This involves a little planning ahead and knowing what shape you intend to use. When I do the black, which actually will carve out the eye area, what that shading will do will give the appearance that the bone itself actually rounds out and sort of leans inward. And even after I've done the black, I can go back and make that shading a little bit more specific with, say, a small eyeshadow brush or a blender brush. Alright, now it's time to begin adding the shape of the carved out eyes and nose. You want to be really careful when you're doing any kind of shaping like this that you start smaller and build larger. Again, it's just like putting on too much product. It's so much easier to add more color or make a shape grow than it is to make it decrease in size. So I'm going to use a MAC concealer brush, a 249 synthetic brush with black chroma cake. And I'm going to begin building the shape, and the eyebrows for me are part of the indicator, so I'll actually just tap a little bit, and I'm going to follow the shape of my own brow to help me dictate the shape of the eye socket. Again, it's not based heavily in reality, so if the shape is a little, you have to be a little creative, that's fine. And I'll use the leading edge of my brow also as an indicator. What's important to do with this look also is to really, if you're not going to cover the brows, is to really scrub the color with that wet brush deep into the brow hair. You may think that it looks fine, and then in photographs you'll see holes or areas that sort of peek out at you if you don't get the color all the way deep down into the brow. So you can see the beginning of that rounded out shape. You also want to use the tip of the brush as the edge. So if you try and build a shape using the flat palm of the brush, you're going to get less precision that you want and maybe some surprises in the shape if I were, say, trying to define underneath the eye with the brush held this way. So you'll notice that I actually hold it directly upright. You can also see that the shape is kind of squared off here in the center, and again, that's me starting small so that I have somewhere to go with the shape. Also, the nose, since it is blacked out, you want to be careful not to get those too close to one another. You want to maintain the definition between the two and make sure that that bone bridge is significant enough to be visible. Alright, so here you can see I have the shape of the first eye completed. And what I can tell you about it is I don't like it. And that's great. What that tells us is that by starting small, you start smart. And so now I can actually change the shape of the eye. I can raise here where I'd like to have a little bit more of a leaning corner. And I can also flatten it out here in the eye to give it more of a leaning oval shape. And because I started small, I have room to grow and room to manage the size of the shape. Then what I'm going to do, you'll notice that I actually didn't cover the eyelid with the black chroma cake. I don't like how this product wears on the eyelid. So what I'll do is blend it inward and then complete the look on the eyelid and inner rim of the eye with some Stila Smudge Pot. And I love these because they're waterproof. And then I'll actually even set it with some black shadow to make sure that my eyelids don't crease up over the course of the evening.